Author's Pav. The city never really slept. It just dimmed its lights and lowered its voice rain slid in slow, glittering trails down the tall windows of the penthouse, turning the view into a smeared painting of neon and darkness. Somewhere far below, sirens wailed, distant and uncaring. Inside, the only sound in the room was the anxious ticking of a clock and the ragged hitch of Y/N's breathing behind the strip of tape covering her mouth. Her wrists burned beneath the rough rope, tied tight behind the back of an expensive leather chair. The scent of cigar smoke, cologne, and something metallic clung to the air, faint but unmistakable. She hadn't seen the men's faces when they dragged her from the parking lot, just masks, heavy boots, gloved hands. A van door slamming, the world spun, then went black. When she woke, she was here. A single floor lamp cast a pool of warm light over the room, leaving the corners in shadow. There was a bar cart against one wall, a large abstract painting opposite, and a glass coffee table that looked more like art than furniture. This was not a basement. This was luxury. A door opened behind her, with a soft click footsteps, followed measured, unhurried, expensive shoes against polished wood. They stopped somewhere in front of her. "Take it off," a low voice said. The tape ripped from her mouth in one quick motion, leaving the skin around her lips stinging. She sucked in a sharp breath, chest heaving. Where am I? Y/N croaked, tongue thick, throat dry. The man dismissed the guard with a small nod. The door shut again. They were alone. He stepped forward into the light. Jeon Jungkook. She'd seen his face on news articles, whispers in the underworld, the names spoken with equal parts fear and respect. Jeon family heir. The quiet one, the shadow behind the throne. In person, he was worse. Dark hair fell in soft waves over his forehead, framing eyes that seemed almost too steady, too calm. His suit was black, tailored to broad shoulders and a lean waist. The top buttons of his shirt undone, just enough to reveal a hint of ink crawling up his collarbone. A silver ring glinted on one finger as he adjusted his cuff. He looked like sin sculpted in human form. And he was looking at her like she was the problem he'd been waiting to solve. Y/N Pav. Of all the faces I expected to see, his was not one of them. Jeon Jungkook was a name that belonged to headlines and whispered warnings, not to the space in front of me. But there he was, solid, terrifyingly beautiful, eyes dark and unreadable. My heart slammed against my ribs, a frantic staccato that made my vision sharpen. Jeon Jungkook, I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. Why am I here? He tilted his head slightly, like he was examining a strange piece of art. You know who I am, he said. Good. Saves us time. I bristled despite the fear. You didn't answer my question. Something like amusement flickered in his eyes. Author's Pav. He moved closer, the soft fabric of his suit whispering as he walked, stopping just in front of her. He leaned down, resting one hand on the arm of the chair, the other on the back, boxing her in without touching her skin up close. Y/N could see the faint scar along his jaw, the way his lashes cast shadows on his cheekbones, the almost lazy control in every line of his body. He smelled like expensive cologne, rain, and something sharper underneath, danger distilled. Y/N, he said quietly, tasting her name like a test. Daughter of Han Min-sik. Her blood turned to ice. My father has nothing to do with me, she shot back automatically. That's a nice lie, Jungkook murmured, comforting even. But unfortunately for you, your father has everything to do with why you're sitting in my chair right now. What do you want? She whispered. His gaze hardened. For a second, she caught a glimpse of something cold and burning underneath. Rage. Old and carefully held. Revenge, he said simply. The word settled between them like a loaded gun/N. Revenge is simple. Until the target looks back at you like she refuses to break a/N. She was supposed to be leverage, not a person who made his control fracture at the edge's author's pav. Y/N's heart stumbled, but didn't stop. If anything, it raced faster. Revenge. It made sense. Her father had made enemies his whole life. He'd built his empire on broken deals and ruined men. She'd known, on some level, that one day the bill might come due. She just didn't think it would come due in her body. What did he do? She asked, forcing herself to meet Jungkook's gaze. This time, Jungkook's jaw clenched, a muscle feathering beneath the skin. He straightened, stepping back a fraction, as if he needed space to keep from getting too close. He stole from us, Jungkook said, laundered money through our channels, signed deals with our enemies behind my father's back, then had the audacity to pretend innocence when confronted. She swallowed. That sounded like her father. That's between you and him, Y/N said. You could have gone after his accounts, his men. Why me? His eyes darkened further, shadows shifting in their depths. Because men like your father don't care about money, Jungkook replied. They care about power, reputation, and the handful of people the world still believes they're capable of loving. He let the implication hang in the air. His only daughter, he added quietly. His weakness, Y/N pav. It twists something in my chest. Hearing that word, weakness, I want to deny it. Tell him my father doesn't care about me. That Han Min-sik only cares about his reflection and his bank accounts. That I am not leverage because I am not loved. But the truth is, I don't know. My father was never soft. Not with me, not with anyone. But there were small things. The way he checked my grades. The way he sent bodyguards to follow me for my safety. The way he insisted I live in a secure apartment and not some cheap room near campus. Control, protection, maybe both. You think he'll come for me? I say slowly. Jungkook's lips curve in something that isn't quite a smile. I know he will. And if he doesn't, I ask, voice cracking just a little. He studies me for a long moment. Then you're free, he says. The words should comfort me. They don't. Free to do what? I demand. Walk out of here and pretend none of this happened. After you've kidnapped me. His gaze drifts briefly to the rope around her wrists, then back to her eyes. A flicker of something unreadable crosses his face. I don't do things halfway, he says. You're safe here. No one will touch you without my permission. You do realize you're the one who had me taken off the street. I snap. His eyes ignite. He steps forward again, faster this time, and his hand snaps out to grip her jaw. Fingers firm, but careful as he tilts her face up to his. Watch your tone, he says, voice low, dangerous. You're in my world now. Fear flares hot in her chest, but so does something else. Something traitorous and electric that she refuses to name author's Pav, he realizes. A heartbeat too late. How hard he's holding her, her pulse flutters wildly against his palm. Her skin warm and soft beneath his fingers. Up close, he can see the tiny freckle near her left eye. The way defiance and fear war in her gaze, he expects tears. Pleading, begging Dot instead, she glares at him. I'm not a pawn, she says through clenched teeth. His grip slackens, surprise flashing across his features. Slowly, he lets his fingers slide away, knuckles grazing her cheek in an almost absent stroke. No, he says eventually. You're not. Jungkook Pav. She's not what I expected. I thought she'd be like him, cold, calculating, always looking for angles. I thought she'd try to bargain. Offer passwords, names, anything to save her own skin. But she sits there, tied to my chair with rope burns on her wrists, and still looks at me like she's evaluating me. Not the other way around. It's unsettling. E shaking, I say quietly. E been kidnapped, she shoots back. Forgive me for not being perfectly composed. Heat curls in my chest. It's part frustration, part reluctant admiration. I exhale, stepping back. I'm not going to hurt you. Y/N. She flinches anyway, because she doesn't believe me, because she can't. Not yet, she mutters. I ignore the sting of that. Loosen her restraints, I tell the guard through the door without looking away from her. Tie her in front. She's not going anywhere. The guard slips in, does as instructed. Rope slides over skin, and she winces, rubbing at the red marks. Once her hands are in front, her freedom is still limited. But it's a concession I hadn't planned to make. I don't usually soften terms. Not for enemies, not for their children, but something about the way she said, I'm not a pawn, sticks in my head like a splinter/N. He told himself she was leverage. But leverage isn't supposed to make your hand hesitate/N. The longer she stays, the less she looks like a weapon. And the more she looks like a choice author's Pav. Hours bled into each otherwise/N was moved from the chair to a guest bedroom that looked more like a high-end hotel suite than a prison. Large bed, soft sheets, an ensuite bathroom, even a closet with clothes that somehow fit her size disturbingly well. You can shower, the maid had said gently. Mr. Jeon doesn't want you uncomfortable. Uncomfortable, the word felt ridiculous. With invisible shackles around her ankles, a guard was posted outside her door at all times. The window, though wide and overlooking the glittering city, didn't open. Still, it was better than concrete and mold. After a shower, dressed in an oversized black t-shirt and soft shorts that weren't hers, Y/N sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the door. She didn't know how much time had passed when it opened. Jungkook stepped in without knocking. His tie was gone, top buttons undone, sleeves rolled up to reveal veins along his forearms, and a hint of tattoo peeking from under his cuff. He looked less like the cold air, and more like a man at the end of a long day, if you ignored the air of lethal control that never really left him. He carried a tray. I'm not hungry. Y/N said immediately. I didn't ask, he replied, setting the tray down on the small table near the bed. The smell of food, warm rice, grilled meat, something spicy and familiar, hit her. Her stomach, traitorous, growled. Jungkook's lips twitched. Eat, he said. You'll need your strength. For what? She asked warily. For staying alive long enough for your father to realize he's running out of time. He said calmly. Y/NPOV. He says it so casually, staying alive, like it's a meeting on his schedule. Do you always talk about life and death over dinner? I ask. Because if I don't make jokes, I'll start shaking again. He pulls out the chair opposite the table and sits, rolling his sleeves up further. Only when the company is interesting. I bristle. I'm not your company. I'm your hostage. He leans back slightly, studying me with that maddening calm. You can be both. I hate the way my skin prickles under his gaze. Hate the way his attention feels heavy, like a physical weight. Hate that when he's in the room, the air changes. I pick up the chopsticks, more to have something to do with my hands than because I've forgiven him. The first bite of food makes my eyes sting. I didn't realize how hungry I was until now. We eat in tense silence for a few minutes. Why are you watching me? I ask finally. Because I don't trust you not to throw the plate at my head, he says. Tempting, I mutter. His lips curve in something almost like a Smilother's POV. There's an ease creeping into their exchanges that neither of them acknowledges out loud. It's small, subtle, like the way she rolls her eyes at him without collapsing into terrified apologies, or the way he leans his elbows on the table, relaxed, instead of looming over her like an executioner underneath it all. Tension hums, thick, hot, unresolved. When she finishes eating, Jungkook stands, gathering the tray. He pauses, fingers tapping once against the metal. Your father has been contacted, he says. He knows you're with us. Y/NS chest tightens, and he's trying to negotiate, Jungkook replies. Which means he still believes he can win. And can he? She asks. Voice small. Jungkook looks at her for a long heartbeat. The honesty in his next words is almost cruel. No. He heads for the door on impulse. She blurts. What happens to me if he doesn't give you what you want? He stops with his hand on the doorknob, shoulders tense slowly. He turns back. Jungkook POV. What happens to her? A simple question with a simple answer. She was never meant to be permanent, just a tool, leverage. When the deal was done one way or another, she would vanish, back to her life, or into the shadows. I've done worse. I've overseen worse. But now, looking at her standing barefoot on my bedroom floor in clothes I had my staff choose for her, hair still damp from the shower, eyes wide, but not broken, the simple answer tastes wrong. Assuming I'd let anything happen to you, I say instead, voice coming out lower than I intend. She narrows her eyes. You already did. The hit lands. I feel it. I set the tray back down on the dresser, then close the distance between us in 3 measured steps. She stiffens as I stop in front of her, head tilting up to keep my gaze. I shouldn't touch her again. I do. My fingers slide along her jaw, thumb brushing the corner of her mouth, tilting her face up. Her breath stutters, lips parting. Her pulse flutters wildly beneath her skin. I told you before, I murmur, eyes locked on hers. No one touches you without my permission. That includes your father, my enemies, and me. Her brows knit. That doesn't make sense. It will, I say before she can respond. The door bursts open. Boss, a guard says, breathless. We have a problem. A/N. Revenge doesn't wait, neither does Dangerous/N. When blood comes knocking, he has to decide whether she's a shield, a weapon, or something far more dangerous to his heart author's Pav. The sudden intrusion snaps the fragile line between them. Jungkook's hand drops from her face. His expression shuddered in an instant, the soft edges hardening back into steel. Y/N feels the loss of his touch more sharply than she wants to admit. He doesn't look away from her as he speaks. "What problem?" Jungkook asks, voice cool. "The handmen," the guard says. "They're outside the warehouse, armed. Your father says they're moving in whether we answer or not." So Han Min-sik had chosen force over negotiation. Of course, he had Jungkook's jaw tightens. He steps back from Y/N, a gulf opening where heat had been moments before. "Get the cars ready," he orders. "Secure the perimeter. No one moves without my say." The guard nods and disappears. Y/N's stomach twists. "You're going to fight," he glances at her, eyes unreadable. This was always going to end in blood. "So that's it," she snaps. "You kill him or he kills you, and I'm just what? The prize." He takes a step toward her, then another, stopping close enough that she has to tilt her head back again. "You're not a prize," he says quietly. "You're the line he crossed." Y/N Pav, his words shouldn't mean anything, but they do, too much. "Use me as an excuse to pull the trigger," I say, voice shaking. "If you want revenge, own it. Don't put it on me." Something flashes in his eyes, anger, frustration. "Something more tangled. You think I haven't owned it?" he asks, voice low and dangerous. "Do you know what your father did to my family? What it cost us? You walk around under his last name like it's not built on blood." The words hit with brutal accuracy. I flinch. He exhales sharply, dragging a hand through his hair, messing up the careful styling. The glimpse of mess suits him too well. "I don't have time to explain this to you," he says, softer, "but I'm not leaving you here." My heart stutters. "What? You're coming with me," he says. "To the warehouse." "That's insane," I choke. "I'm not a soldier, you're leverage," he cuts in. "As long as you're there, he'll think twice before he fires. He may be a monster, but he won't risk shooting through you." Ice pours into my veins. "So now I really am a shield." "Yes," he says bluntly. "But you're my shield, and I don't let what's mine get touched." The possessiveness in his tone is a hot, searing brand. I should be furious. I should be terrified. I am both authors. Pav. 15 minutes later. The air outside the warehouse smells like oil, rain, and gunpowder. Y/N stands beside Jungkook, near one of the black SUVs. The night wind tugging at her hair. Jacket too big around her shoulders. Guards form a loose circle around them. Guns glinting under the harsh floodlights. Shadows move along the edges of the lot, men taking positions, waiting for orders. The warehouse looms in front of them, a hulking shape against the dark. "Stay behind me," Jungkook says, voice a quiet command. "I'm not stupid," she mutters. He glances at her, something like pride flickering in his eyes at her refusal to crumble. "Jungkook." A voice roars from across the lot. Han Min-sik. Y/N's head snaps up. Her father stands at the far end of the space, flanked by his own men. Suit immaculate despite the rain, face twisted in fury. "Let my daughter go and we'll talk," Han Min-sik calls. Jungkook's lips curl in a humorless smile. You lost the right to negotiate when you stole from my family, he replies. This is me being generous. Jungkook Pav. I feel why /N tense at my side. I can sense her eyes flicking between us, father and son of enemies, mirrored in posture and darkness. One chose greed, the other chose the cost. She's innocent in this, Han Min-sik says. Take me instead. A bitter laugh escapes me before I can swallow it. Now you want to be a martyr, I call back. Where was this protectiveness when you signed deals with our enemies? His face contorts. Leave her out of it, he growls. I step sideways, just enough for him to see her clearly. My hand comes up, gripping her waist possessively, pulling her half behind me, half against me. I can't, I say, because somewhere along the way, she stopped being your weakness and became mine. Y/N sucks in a sharp breath beside me. Han Min-sik's eyes flare with something like realization, then rage. Then you're more foolish than I thought, he spits. He lifts his hand for a split second. Everything slows, gunmetal glints under the lights. His finger tightens on the trigger. Down. Someone yells. I move before I think author's Pav. The shot cracks through the night. Y/NS world tilts as Jungkook shoves her hard behind the SUV, his body slamming into hers, pinning her against the cold metal as he cages her protectively. With his own something hot burns past her ear. The glass of a car behind them shatters with a deafening crashman shout. More gunfire erupts, echoing off the concrete. Jungkook's breath is harsh against her hair, his arm a steel band around her waist, keeping her pressed tight against him as bullets sing through the air. Keep your head down, he growls into her ear. Don't move. Her heart pounds so hard she can't tell if she's shaking from fear or from the feel of his body shielding hers. The gunshots stop as suddenly as they started, silence crashing down in their wake. Boss, someone calls. We've got them surrounded. Orders. Jungkook pulls back just enough to look at her, eyes blazing. Can you stand? He asks. She nods shakily. He looks over his shoulder at her father's position, then back at her. A decision hardens in his gaze. Stay here, he says. Whatever happens, don't run toward him. Why? She whispers. Because I'm about to end this, he says, voice low and final. And I don't know which part of me will walk back to you after. A/N. Revenge demands its price. And he's not sure if it will be his enemy's blood or his own soul, a/N. When the smoke clears, the hardest bullet to dodge is the one aimed at your own heart author's Pav. The next minutes blur into chaos. Y/N stays where Jungkook left her, crouched behind the SUV, hands pressed to her ears as gunfire erupts again, shouts, footsteps pounding. The metallic, terrifying symphony of men trying to destroy each other through the gaps between cars. She catches flashes of movement. Jungkook taking cover, barking orders, moving with lethal precision. He doesn't waste bullets, doesn't waste motion. He's all sharp lines and calculated violence. This is the man everyone fears, she realizes. And he's the same man who brought her dinner and loosened her ropes. Her throat tightens. Then, as quickly as it started, the fight dies down. One last shot. A thud. Silence stand down. Jungkook's voice cuts through the quiet. Drop your weapons. It's over. Y/N straightens slowly, fingers trembling as she grips the edge of the SUV and peers around. Bodies litter the ground, some groaning, some still. Men from both sides kneel, with hands behind their heads, disarmed. The smell of gunpowder hangs thick in the air. At the center of it all, Han Min-sik kneels with a gun pressed to his temple. Jungkook stands behind him, breathing hard, shirt splattered with someone else's blood, dark eyes blazing. Y/and Pav. My heart stops. Jungkook, I whisper, voice swallowed by the open space. He hears me anyway. His gaze flicks up, locking onto mine across the lot. For a moment, his expression fractures, just a hairline crack. But I see it, then it's gone, replaced by cold resolve as he looks back down at my father. You stole from my family, Jungkook says, voice steady now. You tried to have my father killed. You just tried to shoot me through your own daughter, my father snarls. You think you're any better? You're just your father's dog. Jungkook's jaw tightens, but he doesn't rise to the insult. You had a choice, he says, every step of the way. You chose greed, betrayal. He cocks the gun. Jungkook, stop. I scream. My voice rings out sharper than I intend. Heads turn. Men murmur. Jungkook's finger stills on the trigger slowly. He looks at me again. Jungkook, Pav, there she is. The one variable I didn't account for. Y/and runs across the scattered battlefield, ignoring the warnings, the hands that try to grab her. She stops a few feet away, chest heaving, eyes wide and wet. Don't do this, she says. He'd do it to me. I reply, that's the point, she says, voice shaking. You're not him. The words hit harder than any bullet. Not him. All my life, people have compared me to my father, assumed I'd grow into his skin like it was destiny. A suit of violence and empty eyes. She looks at me like I could be something else. He won't stop, I say tightly. If I let him walk away from this, he will come back. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but he will. And next time he'll aim better. And you'll kill him in self-defense, she snaps. But right now, this isn't self-defense. This is execution. Her chest rises and falls with emotion. She's trembling not just from fear, but from anger. At me. Is this what you want me to see when I close my eyes? She asks, voice breaking. The man who put a gun to my father's head and pulled the trigger. I swallow. My hand tightens on the weapon. What do you want me to do? I ask, hating how raw the question sounds. Let him go. I want you to choose, she says. Not him, not the families. You. The wind picks up, carrying the smell of rain and gunpowder. For a moment, the world narrows to her face, the stubborn set of her jaw, the shine of tears, the way she's standing between me and the man who tried to kill me. Please, Jungkook, she whispers, don't make me lose both of you tonight. Both. The word slices through whatever was left of my resolve. Author's Pav. In the end, the choice is quiet. Jungkook lowers. The gun. A ripple of shock moves through both sets of men, and Min-sik's shoulders sag with something like disbelief. You think mercy will save you? Han spits. No, Jungkook says. I think it will save me. He steps back, shoving the gun into one of his men's hands. Get him out of my sight. If he ever comes near my family again, there won't be a second chance. Han Min-sik is dragged away, cursing, his words lost in the shuffle of boots and orders. The energy shifts. Weapons lower, engines start. Jungkook stands in the middle of it all, suddenly looking tired, younger. Human Y/N walks toward him slowly, her own legs threatening to give out. That was, she starts. Stupid, he offers. Different, she finishes. They stand facing each other, the warehouse lights casting long shadows around them. The world hums at the edges, but in the circle between them, there is only heavy breathing and 1,000 unsaid things. Why did you listen to me? She asks. He exhales, taking a step closer, then another, until he's right in front of her. Because somewhere between tying you to a chair and you yelling at me in my own bedroom, he says quietly, I realized that revenge stopped being the only thing I wanted. Her pulse flutters. What else do you want? She whispers. He lifts a hand, fingers threading gently into her hair as his other hand grips her hip, pulling her closer. You, he says simply. Then his mouth crashes onto hers. A/N. He dropped the gun. But the way he kisses her is still lethal. A/N. When revenge is no longer the goal, love becomes the most dangerous decision of all authors. Pav. The kiss tastes like rain, gunpowder, and surrender. Y/N gasps as Jungkook's lips claim hers, hot and demanding, his hand tightening at her hip, yanking her flush against his chest. The world spins away, the warehouse, the men, the distant rumble of engines, all fading into background noise. He kisses her like he's been holding back for far too long, her hands, almost of their own accord, fist in the front of his blood-splattered shirt, pulling him closer still. She rises on her toes, mouth parting, meeting the desperate slide of his lips with equal urgency. He groans softly into her, one hand cupping the back of her head, thumb stroking the line of her cheek as his mouth deepens the kiss, slow and hungry. The contrast between the violence of the night and the careful way he holds her makes her knees weak. There are still men watching, still danger humming in the air. But in this bubble, it's just them. When he finally breaks the kiss, they're both breathing hard. His forehead rests against hers, eyes closed, lashes damp. I shouldn't have done that here, he murmurs. I'm glad you did, she whispers back. A cough from somewhere nearby breaks the moment. Jungkook's eyes snap open, sharp again, though softened when they look at her. Get the cars ready, he calls to his men without looking away. We're going home. Y/N Pav. Home, the word, doesn't mean what it used to. It doesn't mean the cold mansion where my father counts money like people. It doesn't even mean my little apartment with 2 thin walls. It means wherever he is, hours later, after the wounded are tended to and orders given, I find myself back in the penthouse bedroom, sitting on the same bed, wearing different clothes. My limbs feel heavy, my mind foggy with exhaustion and adrenaline crash. He saved my father's life. He chose me. The door opens quietly. Jungkook steps inside, now in a fresh shirt, hair damp from a quick shower, a small bandage on his forearm where a bullet grazed him. The sight of that angry strip of white makes my chest ache. He hurt, I blurt. It's nothing, he says. I stand anyway, crossing the room toward him. You bled. He eyes me with faint amusement. So did a few of them. I don't care about them, I say before I can stop myself. His expression shifts, something tender and dangerous all at once. I'm starting to believe you, he says softly. We stop a breath apart. What happens now? I ask. To me, to you, to this. I gesture between us, heat rushing to my face. Jungkook Pav. What happens now? It's a question I've been avoiding even inside my own head. The plan had been simple before her crush Han Min Sik. Take back what was ours. Send a message. The future was a clear, straight line of ruthless efficiency. Now, there's a bend in it shaped like her. You don't have to stay, I say slowly. Your father is alive. He knows what will happen if he crosses us again. You could walk out of here tomorrow and never see me again. The thought makes something ugly twist in my chest. Her brows knit. Is that what you want? I should say yes. Yes, I lie. She stares at me for a long moment. Then she steps closer, reaching up to grab the front of my shirt and tug me down until our faces are inches apart. Say that again, she says softly, eyes searching mine, and mean it. The lie dies on my tongue. I close my eyes briefly, then open them, letting her see the truth. No, I admit. I want you here, with me. I want to know you're safe where I can see you. I want to stop wondering if you're in someone else's crosshairs. I break off, jaw tight. Too much. She studies me, fingers still curled in my shirt. What if I stayed? She asks. Hope flares so bright it's almost painful. You'd be giving up your old life, I warn. Once you're with me, you're in this world. There's no pretending it's not ugly. There will be danger. People will use you to get to me. Didn't they already? She says wryly. At least this time, I'd have the devil himself on my side. I huff out a surprised laugh. She goes serious again. If I stay, it's not because you kidnapped me. It's not because of my father. It's because you lowered the gun, because you listened when you didn't have to. Because the man who pinched my jaw and told me to watch my tone is also the one who brought me dinner and loosened my ropes. Her thumb brushes lightly over my bandage, because somewhere in all of that, I started wanting you too. The room feels smaller, warmer. Y/N, I say, her name rough in my throat. Choose me again, she whispers. Not as revenge, as something else. The vulnerability in her eyes almost undoes me. I lift my hands, cupping her face gently, thumbs brushing her cheeks as I tilt her head back. She leans into the touch like she's been waiting for it. I'm Jeon Jungkook, I say quietly. I am my father's heir, whether I like it or not. I have blood on my hands, and there will be more before I'm done. My world is dark. It may swallow you whole. Her fingers tighten on my shirt, then hold on to me. I exhale, something in my chest finally giving way. From the moment I took you, you were the one thing I knew I shouldn't want, I confess. But I want you anyway, and for the first time, I am willing to betray everything I was raised to be for someone who isn't my father. Her eyes shine. So is that a yes? She asks, a shaky smile tugging at her lips. It's more than a yes, I say. It's a promise. I lean down, capturing her lips again, this time slower, deeper. A careful claiming that tastes like a future, not written in blood alone. She melts into me, arms wrapping around my neck, pulling me closer. The kiss turns heated, his hands sliding down to her waist, pulling her flush against him as they stumble backward toward the bed in a tangle of whispered names and breathless sighs. When they finally break apart, foreheads pressed together, both are flushed and breathing hard, the air charged with the unspoken. We'll take this at your pace, I murmur, forcing myself to still. Whatever you want, however you want it. You say stop, I stop. You say stay, I stay. Her heart swells at the quiet vow. Stay, she whispers. I smile against her lips. Always. Authors pause outside. The city keeps its secrets. Deals are made. Lines are crossed. The world spins on dot in a penthouse, overlooking that restless city. A Mafia heir and the daughter of his enemy lie tangled in choice and consequence. Hearts beating a little too fast. A little too in sync. Revenge brought her into his world. Love is what keeps her there. He will still be ruthless. She will still be stubborn. The darkness won't vanish just because they've chosen each other. But from now on, every decision he makes will carry her weight in it. And for a man born into blood, that might just be enough to keep his soul from drowning us. In. He wanted to destroy her world to fix his. But in the end, it was her who rewrote his.